What if I told you that the most iconic American prep brand of the 2000s, the one once worn by Michelle Obama, featured in every fashion magazine, and beloved for its effortlessly chic catalogs, filed for bankruptcy? Twice. J.Crew wasn't just a clothing brand. It was a lifestyle. With tailored blazers, cashmere sweaters, and color palettes that made you feel like you had your life together, it defined a generation of smart, stylish professionals. At its peak, it was unstoppable. But somewhere along the way, the brand lost its footing. And worse, it lost its identity. So how did J.Crew go from being America's most beloved mall brand to a cautionary tale in the retail apocalypse? Was it bad timing? Poor leadership? Or did the brand simply forget who it was? Let's rewind and find out what really happened to J.Crew. Before it became a household name, J.Crew was something much smaller and much less glamorous. The story begins in 1983, when a catalog-only brand was launched under the name J.Crew. Its mission? To offer stylish, high-quality clothing at an accessible price. The idea was simple but brilliant. Take the aspirational look of Ralph Lauren, timeless, American, preppy, and strip away the unattainable price tag. It was a brand built for a new kind of shopper, someone who cared about aesthetics, but also about affordability. At a time when Americans were becoming increasingly conscious of both style and spending, J.Crew hit a sweet spot. Its catalogs didn't just show clothes, they created a world. With rich, editorial-style photography and models who looked more like effortlessly cool friends than fashion icons, each issue invited you into a lifestyle of clean linen shirts, sandy beaches, and early morning lattes. It was curated, but never pretentious. Aspirational, but never out of reach. Behind the scenes, founder Arthur Sinader and his daughter Emily were building a brand that felt distinctly modern, yet grounded in classic sensibilities. They understood that great design and great storytelling had to go hand in hand. It wasn't just about what people wore, it was about how they felt in it. By the late 80s, the catalog's success was undeniable. J.Crew had built a loyal customer base and a recognizable visual identity. But the next step would take it beyond the pages. In 1989, J.Crew opened its very first retail store in Manhattan, giving customers the chance to step inside the world they had only seen in glossy spreads. And with the rise of mall culture in the early 90s, the timing couldn't have been better. Storefronts soon appeared across suburban shopping centers, turning J.Crew into a physical fixture in American life. In these formative years, the brand established a crystal-clear identity. Preppy but approachable, casual yet polished. Think crisp Oxford shirts, perfectly worn-in chinos, and those iconic roll-neck sweaters that seem to show up on everyone from Ivy League students to middle-class moms. J.Crew had cracked the code to American casual wear, and customers couldn't get enough. It wasn't just fashion, it was familiarity. Reliable, refined, and ready for anything. J.Crew wasn't just having a moment, it was building an empire. After conquering the world of catalogs and dipping into brick-and-mortar retail, the brand was ready for something bigger. And in 2003, it found its secret weapon, Mickey Drexler. If the name rings a bell, that's because Drexler was the retail genius who turned Gap into a cultural force in the 90s. Now, he had his eyes on J.Crew, and he wasn't here to play it safe. With him came bold ideas, bigger ambitions, and a mission to elevate J.Crew from mall brand to fashion authority. One of his smartest moves? Giving full creative power to J.Crew, a quirky, sharp-eyed designer who had been with the company since the 90s. Together, they made magic. Think, sparkly skirts with chambray shirts, blazers with rolled-up sleeves, bold prints layered like a fashion editor's mood board. It was preppy, yes, but with personality. Suddenly, J.Crew wasn't just for New England moms and catalog loyalists. It was cool. It was editorial. It was everywhere. Michelle Obama famously wore J.Crew on The Tonight Show and turned the brand into a First Lady favorite. Celebs like Gwyneth Paltrow and Reese Witherspoon followed suit, and Jenna Lyons, once working behind the scenes, became a style icon in her own right. In 2006, the company went public. It launched Madewell to win over the younger crowd, opened glossy new flagships, and hit over $1 billion in revenue. For a while, it felt like J.Crew had cracked the code on modern American style, mixing luxury with everyday ease in a way no one else quite could. From the outside, the brand was untouchable, but behind the scenes, the pressure to stay relevant, edgy, and profitable was starting to mount. J.Crew had built a lifestyle, but maintaining it? That was a different story. And as the 2010s rolled in, the cracks started to show. By the early 2010s, J.Crew was still riding high in the public eye. But under the surface, the brand was already slipping. In 2011, the company was taken private in a massive $3 billion buyout by TPG Capital and Leonard Green and Partners. On paper, it looked like a power move. In reality, it buried J.Crew under a mountain of debt, and with financial pressure mounting, the brand slowly began to lose the very thing that once made it so beloved, its accessibility. Prices started climbing fast. Suddenly, a brand that once prided itself on making great style affordable was offering $400 skirts and $200 cashmere sweaters. Customers noticed. Critics began calling the brand out for being too elitist, out of touch with real people and everyday wardrobes. The clothes looked beautiful, sure, but who could actually wear them? At the same time, the industry was changing. Fast fashion was exploding. Brands like Zara and H&M were delivering trend-forward looks at lightning speed and at a fraction of the cost. J.Crew, with its slower production cycles and premium pricing, couldn't keep up. Even the people running the show began to question things. In a rare moment of public reflection, Mickey Drexler admitted to the Wall Street Journal, "We gave a perception of being a higher-priced company than we were. Very big mistake." His right-hand woman, Jenna Lyons, had also become something of a fashion celebrity in her own right. But her eclectic, high-low vision, so adored by fashion editors, was beginning to clash with what core customers actually wanted. By 2017, the cracks had widened. Lyons stepped down after 26 years with the company. A year later, Drexler followed. The dream team that had once made J.Crew cool again was now gone. And in their place, a company stuck somewhere between its past success and a future it couldn't quite define. After years of turbulence and turnover, J.Crew was desperate for a lifeline. That lifeline arrived in the form of Jim Brett, a retail veteran who stepped in as CEO in 2017 with a bold vision: to fix J.Crew's identity problem once and for all. Brett wasted no time. He slashed prices, introduced extended sizing, and, most controversially, put J.Crew's mercantile line on Amazon. For a brand once fiercely protective of its image, this was a shocking pivot. But Brett was determined to make J.Crew feel modern, affordable, and inclusive again. At first, the strategy seemed to be working. Sales started to show signs of recovery, and for a moment, it looked like J.Crew might finally be on the right track. But behind the scenes, tension was brewing. Board members, many of whom were still loyal to the old guard, weren't on board with Brett's approach. Some believed that selling on Amazon cheapened the brand. Others disagreed with his push to prioritize value over exclusivity. Just 17 months into the role, Brett abruptly resigned in November 2018, citing widespread disagreements about the future of the company. It was another blow to a brand that had already endured too many. In the following months, J.Crew shuttered its experimental lines, reversed many of Brett's decisions, and found itself, once again, without a clear sense of direction. By the time the pandemic hit in 2020, J.Crew was already on shaky ground, carrying nearly $1.7 billion in debt and struggling to stay relevant in a world increasingly dominated by fast fashion and e-commerce. COVID-19 wasn't the cause of the collapse. It was just the final push. In May 2020, J.Crew became the first major U.S. retailer to file for bankruptcy during the pandemic. Stores were closed, the Madewell IPO was shelved, and the brand entered restructuring mode. But even then, the story wasn't over. J.Crew has been many things over the years: a catalog darling, a prepwear empire, a fashion-forward favorite, and, for a while, a brand on the brink of collapse. But what it is today is something harder to define. After filing for bankruptcy in 2020 and navigating the chaos of the pandemic, J.Crew quietly began stitching itself back together. It wasn't a flashy reinvention, no dramatic runway shows or headline-grabbing collaborations, just a slow, steady attempt to recover its sense of self. At the helm of this effort is Libby Waddle, a longtime J.Crew executive who stepped into the role of CEO in late 2020. And instead of chasing trends, she made a bold decision: to return to the brand's roots. The vision wasn't about becoming fashion's next it label, but about rebuilding trust, focusing on quality, and speaking once again to the core customer who had been there from the start. In 2024, the strategy seems to be paying off. J.Crew is projected to hit $3 billion in sales, its best performance in years. The catalog is back, evoking the golden age of the brand's storytelling days. Stores have been redesigned to feel warm and elevated. And the clothes? They feel more grounded again. Heritage pieces like the roll neck sweater and the barn jacket are being reimagined. Modern, yes, but unmistakably J.Crew. Behind the scenes, Waddle's leadership has emphasized balance. Rather than chasing TikTok trends or trying to outpace fast fashion, the brand is embracing a different identity: timeless, ageless, and quietly confident. Designers like Olympia Gaillot for women's wear and Brendan Babenzian for menswear have brought fresh energy to the collections, blending nostalgia with a more refined, edited approach. And yet, there's still an open question. J.Crew may have stabilized, but has it truly reclaimed its place in the cultural conversation? In an industry obsessed with the next big thing, quiet comebacks don't always get noticed. The brand has struggled to recapture the same magic it once had during the Jenna Lyons and Mickey Drexler era, when it wasn't just popular, but influential. When Michelle Obama wore J.Crew, the stock price literally jumped. That kind of cultural relevance is hard to replicate. In many ways, J.Crew today feels like a brand in recovery. Not trying to dominate the fashion world, but trying to matter again. And maybe that's the smarter move. In a retail landscape full of burnout, trend fatigue, and overexposure, J.Crew's slow, thoughtful rebuild could be exactly what sets it apart. Still, the stakes are high. With the rise of e-commerce giants, viral micro-labels, and ever-shortening attention spans, J.Crew will have to do more than just survive. It has to inspire. It has to mean something. Not just to the millennials who grew up with it, but to the next generation who barely know it exists. So the question now isn't whether J.Crew can exist. It's whether it can matter again. Will it ever reclaim its place in the cultural spotlight? Or is it destined to remain a relic of preppy nostalgia? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and until next time.